Hello, teachers, and welcome to today's Facebook Live event brought to you by the British Council Teaching English Facebook page. My name is Huma, and I'm joined by Desi. We are co tutors on the Teaching English open courses for teachers in December and January. Well, to know more about these courses, please stay tuned. If you're just joining us, please tell us where you're joining us from, and please add all your comments and questions to comments. Today, Desi and I are here to talk about teaching, to know how you check if your teaching is working. Hello, Desi. How are you doing today?
Hi. Well, I'm getting ready for the teaching part, but in between, we will be talking about what teaching is. If there is something like good teaching and bad teaching, I hope it's only good. And I would really like to hear a lot of people joining us with an answer to a question that we asked. Um, what is a good teaching?
That's wonderful.
Indeed. Yeah. So, what do you think? I mean, what is your idea of a good teaching and how do you know it's good?
Okay, that's a very good question, Desi. I mean, it's a question that I ask myself a lot, or one that I've been asking myself for 15 years now. And I feel that the answer has evolved with time. So there's not one definite answer. So for me, it's not about being perfect or ideal, really. I think it's about being present in the moment, being adaptable, being responsive, because we need to respond to the changing educational landscape around us that's marked by AI. We've got inclusion and diversity issues, multilingual needs, and climate action, of course. So I think it's about being adaptable, responsive, and of course being genuinely interested and invested in your students' and your own learning and well-being. What about you, Desi? How do you define good teaching?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I would like to start with agreeing with you on one point that yes, we evolve as teachers, and in the beginning, being good might probably mean sticking to your plan 100%,
Mm,
covering all the bullets that you've got there because this is what they teach you to. With time, you see that being good might mean being flexible
yeah.
and being able to go away from the plan if you see that it's not working the way you wanted it because your learners are more important, their needs are more important, and you realize about these needs in the teaching process. So that's the second point, point I will actually agree with you on. Putting learners in the center of your teaching will
Yeah.
make you a good one, I think. And
Indeed.
mm,
Actually, there are some comments here, Desi. We got
mhm.
Ajas and Rachna joining us, and there's also Mohammed. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. There is a very good point from Rachna, and she seems to agree with us,
Mm.
Desi. Rachna says teaching to meet the learning outcomes, fostering holistic development, inclusive learning, and learning by doing. So basically, Rachna is talking about putting our learners at the center of everything, like you mentioned.
But this is our job. I mean, this is why we chose teaching in the first place because we knew we would be working with people and they should be in the center. And if we don't pay attention, if we don't want to be better for them, we probably should think of different careers, maybe. This is how I see it, and this is how I see teaching. Whether it's good or not so perfect, it's perhaps for the others to decide, but it's also comforting when students come to you and say, I really loved your class today. Can we
Mm.
do this again next time? So yeah, I guess we would all agree on that. Putting the learner in the center of what we're doing would make us perfect, either emotionally or with knowledge about the subject. With perfect English, it's all there.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
mhm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's another comment with Rachna. She says, oh, yeah, here it is. Not to overdo with plans, to
Oh,
adapt to changes, especially the learners' needs and preferences. Well, that's a very good point, Rachna. I remember when I started teaching 15 years ago, one of my teacher trainers told me, please don't teach the book. And it's something that's stuck with me. And that's something that I always, remember when I go into my classroom. So, yes, you're right, being adaptable, being flexible, thinking on the feet, by responding to learners' needs in the classroom. Yes, we've all got, a syllabus to cover, we've got some learning outcomes to achieve. Sorry, but I think those outcomes should also encompass our learners' needs and their interests, their preferences. So as teachers, we need to know what their strengths and their struggles are and what excites them in the process, like Desi said. So we can bring all of these together and enjoy this process of teaching and also make this enjoyable for our learners.
and there's one point. I mean, in our course community, we asked the question, or a member of our community asked the question, what makes an ideal teacher? And well, I would say that there is nothing like an ideal thing in this world. So we shouldn't strive to be ideal.
Mm,
Rather, we want to be real. Uh, Real human beings with our own worries, with our own successes we would like to share. So, yeah, ideal is something we can strive for, but not in this job. We just need to be good people that will make us good teachers as well.
yeah, that's very nice, Desi, because that reminds me of a comment from the community where one of the teachers told us that we also need to see our learners as human beings with their own flaws and needs and their life inside and outside the class, because that can have a bearing on this learning process, on their learning journey. So I think yes, I mean seeing our own selves as humans and our learners and striving for excellence, perhaps not perfection and not thinking about the ideal, I think will help all of us grow and evolve with time and with our students.
Well, speaking of teaching and speaking of helping people to learn new things, improve language, and so on, how do you know you're actually teaching, Huma?
Okay, that's a very good question, Desi. Well, but for a moment, I think let's look at the comments. We got a lot of new people joining us, Desi. We got
Mhm.
Rahmat, Diana, Lydia, Ayman, Theodorus, there's Rosa, Sakul. There's a
Mehwish,
name
I
that
see. Gulsina Tajibaeva, the Mehwish, I also see. Theodoros. Yeah, quite a lot of people are interested in what we are talking about. And we would like to also hear your understanding of both good teaching and, well, how do you know it's taking place in your classroom? So,
okay,
Homa,
yeah,
you will
so
not escape from
no,
that question.
no, I'm not trying to dodge that question, Desi. I mean, trust me. Yes, so your question was how can you check if your teaching is working? And I remember seeing some lovely comments from teachers in our closed group. Well, if you're not part of a closed group, we've got a closed group for teachers called the British Council Courses for Teachers group. We'll drop the link to this community in comments, and if you're interested, please join us because we got lots going on in this community, lots of engaging discussions. We got live events and also lots of useful resources for you to look at and use. So going back to your question, Desi, I remember some of the teachers in our community saying that they know that their teaching is working when they think their students are relaxed, responsive, and cooperative. Some of them also went on to add that they know it's that their teaching is successful because when they see their learners use what they've learned in their everyday conversations. Yes, and I think I agree with these comments, Tessie, because for me, I know my teaching is working like one of them has
Mm,
said, when I see my students engaged, being responsive, asking questions, supporting each other, so that means that, okay, I mean, things are working and they're getting it well. So, and also, when I reflect on my own teaching, when I see what's working, and if something is not working, and if I'm able to adapt and tailor my teaching strategies and change things for myself and my learners, I know that, that I'm moving from
mm,
point A to point B, in my everyday teaching. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the ways I check whether my teaching is working or not.
mm.
What about you, Desi?
Well, what can I say? Sometimes a kind of official way to prove that I have been doing teaching in a classroom is actually the final tests or some institutional tests as well. So if my students succeed in those, that is also a sign that I have
Mm,
done my job properly. So I had facilitated their learning process, and I managed to encourage them or engage them enough in the learning process in order for them to succeed in test situations, let's say. Also, I know that I have been teaching and I was quite successful in that. When they come back to me and say, you know, I checked that thing you talked about in the previous class, and indeed it is so. Or I found some extra resources proving that you were wrong. So the fact that somebody had not taken my word for granted is already a sign that, well, there is some critical thinking going on and some learning process going on. So I might be doing my job, and I'm not ideal. I'm now answering Diana's question, a member of our community as well. No, 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 it's not the goal to be perfect. No, this is what we are trying to say. We are teachers, we make mistakes. We're human beings, our
yeah.
students are human beings too. So making mistakes is part of the learning process, as you mentioned. So no, no, don't put such big goals. Just be
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yes, actually, I mean, yeah, I mean, that brings out a very good point, Desi, that as teachers, we need to be willing to embrace the chaos that comes with working with real people. And I think that's what makes this journey more exciting, because as we all know, what might work for one group of students might not work for another class that we might teach the same day, which means as teachers, we have to adapt and evolve and change with time, and even between lessons, when you move from one class to another, maybe
Mm,
it's the same level, but perhaps something that worked for you at 9 a.m. perhaps might not work for you at 11 a.m. in the morning. So yes, I mean, Diana, you're right. I mean, it's about adapting, changing, and understanding that we don't have to be perfect. And to be honest, I don't think we can be perfect, because the moment you believe that you're perfect, then I believe that we stop learning. So, and to keep this process ongoing, continuous, we need to believe that there's more room and more space for improvement. Oh, there's a very nice comment here from Rahmat. Rahmat says, a good teacher is a unique blend of qualities and one who goes beyond just subject matter expertise. Absolutely, Rahmat, because you can develop your subject knowledge, but I think it's not just subject knowledge. If, it's about understanding your learners, motivating your learners, responding to their needs, like many of you have mentioned. And yes, I mean, taking one step at a time and moving forward.
mhm. Huma, do you remember that member of our community who was actually sharing his sign of learning taking place or teaching taking place in the classroom? I think he said, when they challenge my opinion, when they challenge
Yeah.
me in my own subject. This is also some good sign that learning and teaching is taking place in the classroom, and it's quite measurable as well, because we're also going to talk about how we can collect data of such instances, it's quite measurable, because if there are more people who are willing to challenge you at what you do for a living, challenge you at things you are teaching, that's a good sign. That's something we can really appreciate and not be afraid of. And not knowing the answer, if a student asks you a question, does not make you um, a worse teacher. On the contrary, you are learning together. It's a learning journey for both of you, you and your learners. And I think we have Teresita here with a comment. Your teaching is working and effective if these include giving feedbacks, peer or group reflection, structured interview with students, instructional rating surveys, and similar. Which leads us
Yeah,
basically to a question we also wanted to raise today.
I
Huma,
know. Test the
are you
waters.
going to
Yes.
share it? Yes.
Yes, actually, Teresita, thank you so much for sharing all those tools because as teachers, these are tools that we use in every day. You know, we are literally drowning in these tools because we all collect feedback from our learners. Many of us, record our thoughts in our journals. We also get our learners to keep their own journals or portfolios. We also collect, feedback using surveys, and we've got test scores, we got attendance records. So basically, as teachers, we are drowning in a lot of information and it's a lot of data. I know we shy away from calling it data, but nevertheless, it is data. So Desi, what can we do with this data? I mean, how can as teachers, how can we use this data as teachers so we can, improve our teaching?
Well, you asked the question and you actually gave the answer. The starting point is that we always want to be better, we want to improve, we want to develop, and this data is exactly this. I mean, um, this is the way to find out where we need to focus our efforts. For example, if you see that, well, there is some problem with your speaking activities and this is not something that happens once or twice in the
Mm,
classroom, then this is a sign. This is um, exactly a sign that something is not okay and you should focus your attention on that. So this is where you see if your pair work is not working or if it is group work that needs more attention, and this is where you focus your effort. Like, start reading more about, dialogues, start taking courses on reading, for example. um, these are what we need data for. And yes, you're right when you say that, well, yeah, data sounds very scientific.
I know, clinical, yes.
Data is too scientific to I don't know, to accept it in your classroom when you believe you're an English class you're an English teacher. You don't need data. You have your students. But yeah, you do have data and you collect it even if you don't do it deliberately. You take the register, as Homa said. You observe who's working, who's not. You probably invite some colleague to see if they see the same thing in your classroom, and that's all data. Okay,
Yes,
repeat.
absolutely.
Data,
Yeah.
data, data. It's not something wrong. Yeah, you're doing the right thing.
Yes, actually. Well, I think I mean, I've said this a few times before. I mean, even on this page. And I think that reminds me of this point, Desi, that over time I have realized that every teacher is a researcher. And I remember this comment from one of our community members when we asked, what classroom researchers, and one of them said that all teachers are undercover spies. And I truly agree. I think we all, I mean, we are all detectives because at the end of the day, we research our classroom. And that leads us to a very good question from Rachna, who asks, what other self reflective tools can you suggest in addition to journals? Well, Rachna, I think there are lots of tools. One, you could record your own self, of course. with a word of caution and getting permission from your students. You could record your lessons, using audio and video, and use that, for self reflection. You could observe your colleagues. You could have a few questions, to guide this observation, peer observation. You could observe them, and that could in turn help you reflect on your own teaching. And as Desi and I have been saying, and all of you have been agreeing with, all of the other data that you have, other information that you have, the exit tickets that you collect from your learners, their portfolios, their assessment scores, and their grades. I mean, all you've got all of this information in front of you and can make you reflect. I think it's only a matter of stepping back and listening to what this information is trying to tell you, and engaging with this information, finding out patterns. For example, as teachers, you might have collected exit slips over the last 1 week. Maybe it's time to go back, and look through those exit slips and find out what concepts your students were able to grasp effectively, and if there was some confusion. And that can tell you a little bit about your teaching techniques. Maybe there is a pattern to the way you teach difficult concepts. Maybe you may have to revisit those strategies and maybe adapt or change, those techniques. So I think it's simply about stepping back and listening to what the different kinds of the different the pieces of information, are telling you about your own teaching and your learners. What do you say,
Huma,
Desi?
Huma, before I answer, we have some nice comments from
Mm,
Claudio and Maria about what we can use data for. Yes, analyze data and take decision based on it. That will give you some good responses, and some ideas how to change your classroom for the better. And something that you and I have been talking quite often about is, yeah, taking the small steps.
yeah.
We never said, doing enormous pieces of research in your classroom. We always advise, like, start small. Consider small steps for improvement, whatever they are. Don't overdo it. Don't start big, because big starts may lead to big disappointment because you can't grasp all the information.
Mm.
So start small. And I think we have a challenge from Christiana here. Have you seen that?
Yes.
All right. So she's asking about our favorite reflective tools. Shall we answer or skip the question, maybe?
No, we're going to answer the question, Desi.
Okay. All right. Well, Christiana, if we have to talk about favorite reflective tools, what I personally do after a class when I'm a tired teacher who has just come back, I start drawing, I start
Mm.
drawing my doodles, my drawings, and in between, um, my mind is floating on the things that happen during the day, and it's also kind of, you know getting relaxed. But also, you are a teacher, you never relax in that way. The class is always here, so it
Yeah.
is it is a nice way for me to actually reflect on my day, what was good, what was bad. And yeah, how about you?
Oh, well, I think I like to record my thoughts, Desi. I think I've spoken about this a few times before, so I'm sorry if I'm going to sound repetitive. Well, I often keep notes on Google Keep on my phone because it's handy and it's mobile. So usually I get lost in my
Mm,
thoughts, and I go to Google Keep and I often record what went, not really what went well that day, anything that comes to me about my teaching that day. So I just pen down my thoughts. It's free writing. It's not super organized, but I think it's okay because it's for my eyes only. But I mean, going back to a point of data, well, that's data too because that's meaningful. So the doodling by Desi and those ideas and thoughts from me, that's, I mean, those are those are valuable too, and that's data too. So the point that we are trying to drum home today is, as teachers, we don't have to invent new tools, or bring in something fancy to research your classroom. Well, no, you already have all the data that you need in the form of all the tools that we've discussed: the attendance records, the assessment data, your journal entries. It's only about looking over, the information that you have with you, and then listening to the data and thinking about how you want to respond to this information that's there in front of you. In other words, believing that all of us here, in this conversation today, are researchers, and we can make it a little bit more systematic by actually, responding to the information that we have in hand about the teaching and learning that takes place in our classroom.
In fact, we've been talking about our own classrooms and
Mm,
improving what we do in the classroom. But there is a very good suggestion from Teresita again, who says that gathering data with learners can help to provide proposal projects such as school improvement plans, reading invention. Uh, Programs and implementation of future jobs. So, yeah, I mean, we are the ones who can start doing it in our classroom, like starting small, as we keep saying, but it doesn't mean we can't plan big. If something changes in your classroom, that may lead to a bigger change in the school. So if you can get some people with the same thinking, with the same set of mind, um, to start and making bigger changes in the
mm,
school itself. I mean, why not? Really,
yeah.
we are
I mean,
teachers. We can do everything.
yes, I mean, I totally agree with you, Desi, because I think we, as teachers, we all have to be a part of this journey and this process, for driving change, in the classroom, and, for the school, for the learning community, for the wider English language teaching community as well. So that's a very good point there from Teresa. There's another good point from Azale. Azale, I'm
Yeah,
sorry
I
if I
was looking at
mispronounced.
it.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Azale says, yes, indeed, every teacher is a researcher. I take a lot of time to prepare for my lessons. I care for my young learners and mainly how to engage them in an enjoyable atmosphere. Well, so true, Azale. Rashna says, the more I do my lesson plans, the more innovative I am in terms of knowledge delivery and adapting my teaching materials. Yes, indeed. So everything is part of research, because we research how we can make our lessons more engaging, and that's part of classroom research too. So as teachers, we need to get out of, this mindset that research is scientific or only for academics, or something boring or time consuming, or perhaps something that involves reading, lengthy, boring academic articles. Not really. Well, if you enjoy doing that, then lovely. I mean, you can engage, with those articles in many meaningful ways. But however, I think it starts right there in your classroom. So because it's about you and your learners, and it starts, in your classroom.
It's
Um,
actually one point I want to make in addition to what you said, because we mentioned also recordings. Recording your
mm,
classroom or video recording your classroom for further observation. This is one thing that can be really helpful
mm,
indeed. But please, if you ever decide to do that, don't forget that we need our students' permission or
yes.
their parents' permission to do so, even though it is for your research, even though it's for you to find out something to improve. It's still a step that we all need to take. I mean, get permission before we record. Oh, Huma, guess what? The time is running away. And
Yes, and Desi, we got a closing comment from Claudia that kind of summarizes our chat today. And Claudio says, doing classroom research is the best way to become a better teacher, to be aware of our learners' needs. So, Claudio, thank you so much for that comment. And on that note, we would like to request teachers to take this conversation to their class, to their staff room, to engage their colleagues and their peers, and make sure they're also part of this research journey with you, and see how you can collaborate with your colleagues and peers and make this more exciting for all of you, because two minds, together are better than one. So
mhm.
I hope you found this conversation useful. Desi, any
If you
housekeeping?
yeah, if you're wondering how to fill the January in, probably it is a good idea to look at the schedule of the courses that are planned to, I don't know, finish a little bit this month. So you will see that there are some deadlines for one or two of the courses.
Yes,
We strongly recommend the classroom research because that was the topic today. And if you really want to know more about how to feel more comfortable with doing classroom research, probably taking that course will help you. And it's one of the courses that will end soon. Also, stay tuned for the ones that are starting in February. They are interesting and equally engaging. Some of them are how to create your courses and how to deal with reading in your classroom. So, yeah, thank you very much for being with us and being so nice to us. I saw some little comment that you
yes.
liked our session, which is really great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Desi, I'd like to go back to the information that we're trying to give about our courses. So yes, we've been running 4 courses since January. So Desi mentioned the classroom research course. We also got the communication skills course, and enrollment for these courses ends on the 24th of January. So if you haven't joined these courses, please follow the links in comments and please enroll for them. And we also got action in ELT and assessing learning. Also, if you're not part of our closed group community, you'll also find link to our closed Facebook group. Please feel free to come along and join us, because we got another live event coming up, but this time in the closed Facebook group next week, and it's about teaching. Ask us anything about teaching, classroom teaching. So please join our closed Facebook group if you haven't, and enroll for our courses, and do come along for our next live event next week. Thank you very much for coming today. We hope to see you in our community for the next live event.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.
How to find and join groups for teachers. From our Teaching English page on Facebook, tap About. Go down the page until you see Groups. Then tap See All. Tap the name of a group to learn more about it. You must ask to join private groups before you can access them. Read carefully and provide any requested information. Read the group rules. Confirm that you agree to them. Then tap Submit. Popular posts from your groups will appear in your newsfeed. Tap on the name of a group to go there. Or access all your groups by tapping on your profile. Groups. Then choose which group to explore.